Hello, and welcome to WDSO'S Porter County Perspective. This is Max Good of WDSO, the news department. And this week my guest is Greg Arthur from the non-for-profit organization Free the Girls. Thanks for speaking with me today, Greg.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
All right, first up on the list. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us your role in your organization?
Sure. My name is Greg Arthur, and I am the co-director of Free the Girls. Been involved with Free the Girls for about 12 years now, and we're a nonprofit that provides reintegration services for women who are survivors of sex trafficking around the globe.
All right. Number 2. Can you tell us a little bit about your past experiences which led you to hold this position?
Sure. I've been involved in the anti-trafficking world for about 15 years now. And that began working actually with orphans in Russia and has spread across the globe with some different organizations. But I've been around Free the Girls since the inception 12 years ago. And I've had the privilege of serving in a number of different roles. I served on the board, served as president of the board. Then I came on staff about 2.5 years ago. And now I'm in a co-director role, helping to manage the organization and staffing and working on fundraising some of those fun pieces.
That's amazing. Could you tell us just a little bit about Free the Girls, what you guys do?
Sure. So in the counter-trafficking world, there's a number of different roles that organizations fill. There is the prevention and education side. There is groups that work on what we think of like rescue, of helping people emerge out of trafficking and escape that reality. Then there are organizations that work on aftercare and helping people rebuild their lives. And we come in alongside those organizations and we offer reintegration services. So we try to help people who have are survivors of trafficking actually rebuild their lives and reintegrate into their communities. And that's a long-term process. And so it involves a lot of different elements to it, but a big part of that is economic empowerment. One of the primary things that makes someone vulnerable to being trafficked is living in poverty. And so we try to work with the women that are with us, the survivors that are in our programs, to help them begin to heal from the trauma of what they've been through. But then through our job creations program and the curriculum we work through the holistic care we help provide to actually help them heal, get empowered to rebuild their lives and sort of choose what their next part of their life is going to be. And we do that in a lot of different ways, but a lot of people know us because of bras. So one of the main ways we help women reintegrate and create jobs is we help them run their own micro businesses. And we do that by collecting new and gently used bras from all over the world. And those bras become the inventory in these little micro businesses that the women run. And they stay in those programs for about 2 to 3 years until they graduate out of that and are able to sort of choose what their next part of life is going to be.
Yeah. Question number 3. Can you tell us who makes the Free the Girls organization possible?
Sure. We have an incredible staff and supporters around the country and really around the globe. So we have 5 staff members. 2 of us are privileged to be right here in Chesterton. Joe Juarez, who's been a fixture in Chesterton in a lot of different ways for a number of years, and a local business owner. He helps oversee our inventory and making sure that all of the bras that come into Chesterton get sorted and sent back around the globe. And that's on average about 250,000 bras a year that are shipped here that then get sorted and sent back out. So that's a big job. He does that. But then we have staff members in California and in Tennessee. And then we have people we work with in each of the countries that we are in as well, just as far as like on the staffing side of what we do.
Oh my gosh, 200, how many bras did you say?
250,000 bras-ish a year.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It's a lot of bras.
All right, question 4. Where did the inspiration to begin such an organization come from?
The story started in Mozambique. So our founder, Dave Terpstra, lives in Mozambique and was doing work around helping people in extreme poverty. And he had met a woman, Leonore, who was working with some women who were survivors of sex trafficking, and the need for job creation existed. And Dave began to sort of dream about what might be possible within that. And as he walked the streets of the capital Maputo there, he saw a man with an umbrella with bras hanging from it, that he was selling bras on a street corner. And he started to notice that in the used clothing markets there, people were selling bras. And he thought, I don't know anybody who collects bras. I know organizations that collect shoes or other types of clothing. And then he thought, I actually don't know if there are any bras to collect. He didn't have any bras. So he called up his friend Kimba in Denver and started sharing with her the idea. And she said, yeah, absolutely. Every woman I know has 1 or 2 bras in the back of their drawer. They have no idea what to do with. And that sort of birthed the idea of collecting bras as a way of helping these women rebuild their lives within that.
Yeah. Question number 5. Will you explain what exactly Free the Girls' mission is? And more specifically, what are its values?
Sure. So our mission is to help women who are survivors to experience full holistic healing and reintegration into their communities. When someone's been trafficked, there are a lot of barriers that exist from them healing from that and to rebuilding their life within that. And so we want to help partner with those women to see them do that. They're incredible. They're the most amazing survivors because of what they've been through and how they have been able to really believe that something new is possible, that they can move beyond that. And so as we're working within this, our values are to center the women that we're working with in our stories. Like, we are survivor focused. It's not about us and what we could do here. It's about shaping programs and doing the work that our women need us to do within that. So we're really focused on holistic care. We're trauma informed. We're survivor focused and informed in what we do. And we try to be culturally specific. So in the various countries we work with and we work in, we cater the program specifically to the needs of the women in that community, because different cultures, different countries have different needs. Our reintegration looks different. Economic empowerment looks different. So we really work with them specifically to craft what we're doing.
All right. Question number 6. Can you define human trafficking in terms that explain the depth of this worldwide practice?
I will try. Human trafficking, you'll find a lot of different definitions for it and different statistics as far as to how it's counted globally within that. We sort of try to differentiate human trafficking into a couple different categories. So we work specifically with sex trafficking. And so sex trafficking would be recruitment, the harboring, coercive solicitation of a person for a commercial sex act against their will. So by force, fraud, or coercion within that, or involving any person in that who's a minor, so under 18 within that. Whereas sex trafficking is a smaller component of human trafficking than labor trafficking or forced labor, which would be the same sort of thing. It would be the coercion, the recruitment, pulling somebody into via fraud or force into involuntary servitude, into labor, debt bondage, that sort of thing, where it's against their will, but it's for the purpose of working a job within that. And so globally, the numbers vary as far as that goes. We're talking. The question is of how many tens of millions is the reality of that. And numbers I saw most recently this year involved also, under the definition of forced labor, they include forced marriage. So which is a form of essentially like forced labor in a home. Where women are forced into marriages for the purposes essentially of performing household duties, trapped in this life without ability to get out of that, without options when they got into it. And those numbers are as high as 40 and 50 million people globally are involved in all those various fields. So even if people are counting slightly lower numbers, they're still in the tens of millions around the globe that are facing this reality.
Yeah. Question number 7. What countries does Free the Girls work in, and how are these countries chosen?
Yeah, so I mentioned Mozambique earlier, and that was the first country that we started working in. And we also work in El Salvador and in Costa Rica. We recently reopened a program in Uganda, and we have Free the Girls Mexico that we've been getting off the ground for the past year. It's going to look a little bit different there. And the way the countries are chosen for us is it's all about our partners on the ground. So we don't go in and rescue or provide the initial aftercare for any of the women. We come alongside and provide a specific service for the organizations that are doing that work. And so a lot of it is figuring out who makes a great partner, who sort of believes the same thing we do, and that we can partner with well. And because the bra sales have been a huge part of our program for most of our history, it had to be a country where selling secondhand bras, the used clothing markets, where that would be an effective tool for them. Not every country is going to be effective within that, but the countries we have had the longest term programs have been. And so we're looking to actually expand some of the ways in which we do that so that we can go to other countries where we can't sell bras or we can't ship bras there. So we're working on expanding some of the services we offer so that we could go into some newer countries as well.
Yeah. Question number 8. How many people do recent statistics state have been exploited by the process of human trafficking?
Okay, so we were talking about this a little bit earlier, right? With depending on how we define it, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 50 million people, depending on what is being counted within trafficking. Within that, almost all of those are going to be people that fall under the category of living in extreme poverty. So if rates of exploitation follow pretty closely with extreme poverty rates globally.
Question number 9. How do people often fall into the tragedy which is human trafficking?
Yeah, so that's tied into the poverty question as well within that. Human trafficking is primarily an economic reality, that people are being exploited for the profit of someone else. Their lives are essentially be turned into a commodity for the sake of someone who can make money off of that. And what makes them vulnerable for that are the things that are accompanied living in extreme poverty. So if you don't have food security or housing security, if you don't have educational opportunities, if you're isolated, if you're alone, if you're living on the streets, substance abuse issues, all of these things can be tied into that. I was reading a study just yesterday by the Polaris Project, which is one of the leading national organizations that studies human trafficking in the U.S. And it showed that of the survivors they interviewed, 96% of them grew up within poverty. And it was like 93% of them had experienced some sort of abuse at home that was linked to their running away or sort of the situations they found up within that. So, domestically, we're looking at home environments and poverty, abuse. These are things that generally are often found in the stories of survivors.
Yeah. Well, what percentage did you say that was?
It was in the 90s of the interview now this may not be for everyone, but of the survivors they interviewed and had done a long-term study with, it was in the 90% range for those who had suffered abuse of some sort, physical, emotional, sexual abuse, and their rates to being trafficked.
That's crazy. All right. Question number 9. Question number 10. Can you explain to us the process Free the Girls takes to improve the lives of formerly trafficked women and how the bra collection turns these women into entrepreneurs?
Yeah, that's the part we love to talk about. So when we come alongside of the women in our programs, the first thing we're trying to do is to help them recover some of the things that are lost when they've been trafficked. So we want them to feel like they're part of a community. We want them to have belief in themselves and to see what's possible, and to see what they are capable of again. And so we have a really beautiful multi-year process of training them in a curriculum that we use that's written for the different countries where we work. And we take them through this process of sort of dealing with the trauma they've endured, but also beginning to understand what it would look like to run a business and how that might empower them. And we work with them so that they can overcome some of the obstacles to that and sort of begin to dream again of what they can do. And while they're in that program, in most of our sites, we have the bra sales that are part of that. And so as they're going through the program, they're getting the chance to actually have the experience of running their own business. And they are able to do it in a safe way that helps them to succeed if they can within that, but not in a way that makes them dependent on us. We want them to be not dependent on Free the Girls long term. We want them to be able to graduate and to move away from our program because they're capable of, with a community around them, to stand on their own feet again. So we really work with them to help them discover what their dreams are. Part of that is freeing them up so that while they're in the program, we do things like making sure their kids are in school, making sure that kids are fed, helping to work with them on housing insecurity, and helping them get medical care and coverage as they need be, so that they can be successful in having a job and then through the success of that job to sort of rebuild their life as they move forward.
Yeah, that's amazing. Question number 11. You talked a little about this before. Why were the bras specifically chosen?
Yeah, I mean, it was an idea, but what was beautiful about the bras, which may not have been the initial idea, but why we stuck with them, was one, because we work exclusively with women. When they were selling bras, it allowed women to work directly with women. So most of these women have been exploited by men. And so there can be a triggering aspect to financial transactions with men and these sorts of pieces. So by working with bras, it created a safer environment for them to do so. We also didn't know, though, that bras were going to be super effective because in the used clothing market, bras have a lot of value as far as like a price per pound issue. bras are not heavy. They're not. But they're more of a luxury item. There's a lot of technology that goes into bras and how they're manufactured, so you can move them in bulk. But women are able to sell them well, and so the average woman in one of our programs only has to sell 4, 5, maybe 6 bras a day to make a living wage. And so over time, we just found that bras were really, really effective for them to actually be able to make money. And as we've done studies on women and what they're earning, we've found that they're earning 2, 3, 4 times minimum wage in their environments. So they're able to do things like buy land and make sure they rent a house or start building a home or improving their home. It's really had an effective impact with that. So that's why we've kept sticking with bras, because they've been really effective, unexpectedly so, with helping the women.
Yeah. All right. So, question number 12. Can you explain the reintegration model that is supported by Free the Girls? What are some challenges faced by exploited women who may not receive support from the organization?
One of the main pieces for reintegration is overcoming trauma and stigma. And a big part of that is helping them to begin to dream about what their life can be, but also to rebuild it so that it gives them a sense of legitimacy. And that can also be as much of a personal thing as it is a communal thing. But the reality is if you don't change what makes someone vulnerable to being trafficked, even if they get rescued, even if they get care, there's still like an 80% chance they're going to be trafficked again or be vulnerable for that situation, because nothing's actually changed, the thing that's made them vulnerable for that. So that's where we really try to intercede. We want to change the things that make them vulnerable, so that then they can rebuild their social network and be re-engaged within that, allow their children to be part of a community within that too. In some places that's difficult because there's a lot of stigma for the women who've been trafficked. And they have to really work hard to sort of prove their worth again within the community. And so we just stick with them in our community so that they're able to rebuild that and be effective in it.
So, number 13, we want to state that human trafficking, the hotline number, a couple of times during this interview, and that is 1-888-373-7888. It is recommended that everyone save the number in a cell phone contact. The hotline has received over 50,000 tips in 2021, according to their website. Since its inception, the human trafficking hotline has identified 164,839 victims. That is from everyday average citizens. Could you explain to listeners what to be on the lookout for when scanning for signs of human trafficking?
Yeah, absolutely. And that number, that'll connect you with the Polaris Project. So they're the ones who have done by far the most work in the United States with educating people around the realities of human trafficking and setting up the national hotline. And they do work with government agencies and Health and Human Services and law enforcement to specifically go and intervene in instances where trafficking occurs. So they're incredible. So absolutely save that number, 1-888-373-7888, because you absolutely could make an impact in someone's life. So if you're looking for signs of human trafficking around, it's often hard to find with strangers. You can see a scenario, especially if you see young women that seem to be someplace where they're being controlled. They don't seem to have freedom of movement. Or if you see someone in a labor situation, it could even be a restaurant. It could be nail salons. It could be even something like a legitimate business, like a dry cleaner, where if you see people who don't seem to have freedom of movement, people who live in a place like that, this is like, as you look around our country, this is where you can find examples where someone's being trafficked within those labor forces within that. But I always tell people the place you're most likely to really keep a good eye out is in your community and friends, right? Especially thinking about the vulnerability of teenagers, young adults within this. So if you have friends that are isolated, who begin to draw lots of attention from people they don't know, begin to disconnect from their life, begin to disappear a lot, if they have unexplained absences for periods of time, signs of abuse or trauma within that, these are the moments when it's always better to speak up pay attention, ask questions, speak to someone about it, call a hotline within that. But I always say the best eyes are the people who are in community around individuals who could possibly be vulnerable, and really paying attention to dramatic changes in their life, things that are taking place, and then just not being afraid to speak up and ask, call someone. You can do it anonymously, but really pay attention to that.
Question 14. Collecting these bras during bra drives is step 1 for helping to uplift those affected by trafficking. What's step 2? Where do the bras go from there?
We offer a couple of different ways for people to partner in this and do something about it. So the first is bras, right? We take donations. Like I said, we get almost 250,000 bras a year. And those show up in packages of 1 to 2. Those get dropped off. We have drop-off locations all around the country. Like here in Chesterton, if you go to like Red Cup Cafe, you'll see a box there, Free the Girls. Or if you go to the 219 Tap Room, they collect them there. But you can go to any Aerie store or Hanes brand store in the country, and they also collect them for them, right? And they all end up at Doodland Community Church, which is our inventory processing center here in Chesterton. And so we invite people to do that. It's great. We're super helpful for that. But there's a lot of else that goes into that. First, every bra that we get costs money to process, inventory, and send back around the globe. So I always tell people, hey, if you want to donate bras, please include $1 or $2 with each bra. Because otherwise I have to go out and raise the money for all the bras that we get without money for that, So that's a big part of it. But also, like, people can get inspired really to do events, educational events, to do events that are fundraisers. We have lots of people who do online fundraisers, social media fundraisers, those sorts of pieces. But sometimes the most exciting things have been people who have had this idea for how to integrate Free the Girls as a sponsor or partner in events that they're doing. Community events, right? We've been part of 5Ks and golf tournaments, or nights that people are hosting at a restaurant, or organizations, school organizations, right? We've had wonderful groups from the high school here who have come to partner with and to help us pack bras and to be part of that. So the cool part about being here in Chesterton is that we love to partner with people locally and find ways to take what they're passionate about and what the communities they're part of and help them come and be part of what we're doing, whether that's in person or hosting an event or packing bras. And we're always open to partnering with somebody whoever is really interested in being part of that.
So number 15, if listeners wanted to either donate bras in the future, where can they drop them off? You said a couple examples.
Yeah, a couple examples. Just highlight those again. You can always go any time of day. You can go by Doodland Community Church. There's which is at 1552 Pioneer Trail, right behind Strachan Van Til off of 49 there. And there's always donation boxes there. But in and around town, you can go to, like I said, Red Cup Cafe, 219 Tap Room. There's other places you can find on our website that would show you local places you could drop those off.
Number 16. If listeners are interested in hosting a bra drive for Free the Girls in the future, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, so hosting a bra drive's great. You don't have to even sign up to do that, but if you wanted to, if you go to our website, which is just freethegirls.org, we'll highlight that a couple of times. There's information there about how to host a bra drive, and we have lots of resources because we have people who do this for us and have for a long time. So we have images you could use on social media. We have emails you can send out to people. We have ways in which you can set up an online fundraiser to go along with your bra drive. So as you're encouraging people to be part of it, they can donate money as well. We have all of those resources available for you online.
Number 17. How many bra collection events take place each year?
You know what? That's a great question. I looked at that and I actually don't know. Because sometimes people let us know about them and sometimes they don't. My instinct would be probably several hundred events happen across the country each year. But then I said, like, we have a number of these bra drop-off locations that just receive bras all year round, including stores and retailers. So they're not events. They're just doing it all the time. But the majority of our bras at this point, or at least over half of them, come from those bra drop-off locations and the retailers we partner with in doing that.
Number 18. Beyond hosting a collection event, how else can listeners support the organization and trafficked women?
Yeah, you keep educating yourself. That's a huge part of it, just so you can really understand what's going on, and to help correct some of the myths that exist around human trafficking. There's a lot of things out there and images, and we always talk about movies like the movie Taken that show these images of human trafficking that aren't very connected to reality, and those can distract from what's really going on in the world. So I really encourage people, educate yourself, find out about what's going on, go to great websites like PolarisProject.org, where you can see all sorts of things about the myths and the realities of it. But beyond that, man, if you want to get involved, that's the most exciting part for me is people who really want to be part of something. That's what I love about Free the Girls is we connect people from across the globe who want to do something. And if you want to do something, I'd love to talk with you and be part of that. If you just want to contribute, I mean, we have monthly donors and people who help support what we're doing in our programs because they really want to invest into freedom for women. And so you can do that at freethegirls.org as well. But if you have a creative idea of a way of educating people or fundraising or getting people involved in this work, we're always willing to talk with you about finding a way to connect with that.
Number 19. For more information about Free the Girls, where can listeners call? A website they can visit?
Yeah, so our website again is freethegirls.org. That's by far the easiest way of doing that. But if you want to contact me directly and you're listening to this, you can just email me at greg@freethegirls.org. And I would be happy to chat with you about that. But you can also find us on all social media, whether it's on Facebook or on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I don't think we're on TikTok yet, but we'll work on that. But you can find us in most any of those places to contact with us directly and partner with it as well.
How often do you guys do your bra packaging events?
Generally about once every 4 to 6 weeks. So our next one is coming up actually here in the last week of February, on February the 28th. That's a Tuesday night from 5 to 7 p.m. at Duneland Community Church. So anybody who'd like to come and be part of that, help us to unpack boxes, sort through the bras, repackage them, get them on pallets. There's jobs for everybody. You're very welcome to come join us for that.
Do they sign up for that, or is it just show up and help out?
Yeah, you can just show up and help out. And if you contact me directly, I can answer any questions you might have about that, but you can just show up.
All right, so final question. Is there anything else you would want to include about this interview today or Free the Girls we haven't touched on?
Just that one of the really fun parts of all this is this is an organization that didn't start here in Northwest Indiana, but has sort of gotten headquartered here by accident. And over the last decade, we have seen 2 million bras get shipped essentially to Chesterton that have gone out around the world to help be inventory for these women. And there have been thousands of people that have gotten involved here from Indiana or neighboring states that have come in to be part of that have helped do awareness events, that have raised funds, that have participant, all these local businesses that have been great supporters of us. So it's just really cool to see how people who want to do something can actually band together and make something happen and impact the lives of women around the globe within that. So even though we're here in Chesterton, we can do stuff that makes an impact around the globe, and I think that's a beautiful gift.
That is amazing. I'd like to thank you, Greg, for coming around today from Free the Girls, talking with me, and everything you're doing to help victims of human trafficking. I would like to state that human trafficking hotline number one more time before signing off. And again, it's recommended that you save this number in your phone to call if you suspect you see signs of human trafficking. That number is 1-888-373-7888. Thank you for listening. This has been Max Good, signing off.